Greetings, everyone. We are just getting ready to start up the podcast. We've got a couple of minutes before Romney shows up. But for those who actually show up, first of all, thanks so much for supporting the podcast as much as you guys do. And this is usually where we kind of do a pre-podcast because we cover a bunch of stuff that didn't necessarily make the agenda this week, which is sad for some, but unfortunately, you just can't really make those stories work. So me and Alex are here. We're here to oblige you all. And let's see. Let's start actually going through a bunch of the stories, unfortunately, that did not make it this week. Jiminy Christmas. How you doing, Alex?
I'm doing all right.
Very cool. Okay, where to start first? Where to start first? That is really the question. So people actually did want me to answer this one, but Stardew Valley, if you're a fan of it at all, I don't know if you play it on PC, Alex?
No, I don't.
Okay, so Stardew Valley, people actually reached out to me and asked, did you know or did you see the Nintendo announcement? Yes, I did. Stardew Valley literally hit the Switch yesterday, and I have since been playing it and loving playing it on the Switch. I have officially bought this game 3 times now, Alex. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Nothing.
I don't buy games from multiple consoles, but this one I did because first of all, I liked playing it on PC, and then it came out to consoles, and I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. I need to have this. And then it got announced for the Switch, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to have this because then I can play it portably. So yeah, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know. So
well, I got Sonic Adventure 2 for GameCube. I got it for PS3, and I have it on Steam. So there you go. I bought games 3 times too.
Oh yeah, I'm saying like I don't usually do that. So I mean, I don't know what keeps me doing it aside from it's relaxing. I'm not usually the guy that gets into farm games, or really games outside any genres that I like. But this one did it. This one did it and a half, and I get relaxed every time I play it. So that worked. The other one too that people wanted me to comment on is, did I see the trailer for the upcoming Never Stop Sneakin'? This is a Switch indie game made by the same people that made Dust and Elysian Tale. And yes, I did, and it looks fun. It's basically like a top-down stealth run and gun kind of game. It actually looks really funny, especially since it's making fun of a lot of the tropes of Metal Gear. It literally is like in the trailer, you find out that apparently the vice president of the United States is a helicopter named Mr. Helicopter.
Nice.
Yeah. So there you go. I did actually see that one. No need to worry about that. The first one that people wanted us to talk about is apparently Keanu Reeves. I know Keanu Reeves has been asked about a number of roles that he's ever done, but this week, I guess they decided to approach him again on the Matrix reboot and Bill and Ted 3. Now, the listener pointed out, this is how I know I have a dedicated listener, that I have talked about Bill and Ted 3 way back into the Evening of Geekery, the prototype for Geek News. But in regards to this update, it doesn't really look like we got too much on it. It was basically asking if Keanu knew anything about it, and his answers were like a big fat I don't know. He doesn't know anything about Bill and Ted 3. He doesn't know anything about the Matrix reboot. I don't even know if he would know about that stuff unless he was like in the production staff. Because even I know that like actors sometimes get kept in the dark.
Well, Bill and Ted, somebody would have told him about that. The Matrix is iffy because that can go on without him.
Well, he knew that. I can't remember the other actor, the guy who plays Bill, because he played Ted. He was
Mike
pushing
Myers.
for Bill. There you go. He was pushing for Bill and Ted 3, and Keanu knew about that. And he's like, well, yeah, I wouldn't mind getting back together and doing that. But since John Wick, I really don't think he's going to be revisiting any projects. I don't know his love for it, but I mean, they've made John Wick 2, and now they're making John Wick 3, aren't they? So I
I have
really
no
don't
idea.
think I really don't think he's going to be like enthused to go back to a Matrix reboot. Besides, why reboot the Matrix? The Matrix,
Yeah, really.
the Matrix doesn't need to be rebooted, guys. It really doesn't. And for as many people that actually want it, nah. So the other one that
I don't.
what was that?
I don't want a Matrix reboot.
Yeah, I'm kind of in your camp. I mean, I liked the original Matrix. Liked it. It was okay. I hated Reloaded, and I'm one of those rare people that actually liked Revolutions and what it tried to do. But I don't want a fourth movie, and I don't want a reboot. So unless you're gonna like absolutely wow me with a fourth, I would prefer a fourth movie over a reboot. I really would. There's too many things being rebooted these days. The next story that people wanted us to talk about was an update to the Ubisoft story that we covered, I think, a couple of months ago, where it looked like Vivendi was starting to buy shares into Ubisoft and gaining ownership. That has since changed. Ubisoft is going to be buying, or is intending to buy back its own stock to reclaim the company from Vivendi. So this is another step for, I can't remember the CEO's name. Mike, no, Yves Guillemot. Okay, if I'm saying that wrong, I'm sorry. This is another attempt for Yves Guillemot to maintain his hold on Ubisoft, to be able to maintain the creativity of his company. But the problem here is that I mean, I'm glad. I don't want to see like a corporate influence come in there unless it makes the company better. Unfortunately, a lot of our intention, or a lot of our examples of corporate intervention, are bad. Cough EA, cough Activision, except in the case of Blizzard. But this was actually one where I remember a lot of us were kind of looking at it and going, well, this might be positive because Ubisoft's direction isn't working that much or that well. So maybe this might be a step in the right direction. Well, it looks like it's not going to happen anymore because Ubisoft is planning to prevent the Vivendi takeover. I mean, unfortunately, my thoughts on the matter are, okay, that's great if you don't want to do it, but you need to pull yourself out of the proverbial fire at this point. Assassin's Creed Origins has to absolutely wow people to bring people back to the Assassin's Creed series. I don't know the exact numbers, but I think Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle did fairly well. So maybe working on another collaboration with Nintendo would be a good idea. I'm trying to think of their other stuff that I don't know if we're going to get another Watch Dogs. For Honor, I think, is going to have consistent updates, so that might work things out for them. But I don't see how Ubisoft pulls their butt out of the fire. I was really hoping that instead of Assassin's Creed this year, we'd get like a revisit to Prince of Persia or something. What about you, Alex?
I don't have any strong feelings because I've never played anything Ubisoft really.
Just wait, and then we'll find out that one little game that you played for like 10 hours and it actually was published by Ubisoft, or not published, but it was sponsored by Ubisoft. And then you're like, oh, damn it. Now I can officially say I've played an Ubisoft game. Be like, muhahaha. That's exactly how that goes. Let's see. Oh, this was for me and Alex. Did we see the new trailer for Pacific Rim Uprising? I have not. I
haven't seen it either.
I haven't been able to do much of anything. This was a busy week, in case people didn't know that on the channel. I had videos pretty consistently every day. So I have not been able to catch up on really anything aside from podcast related stories, but I do want to watch it. I'm still very excited for it. And also, this is more of a Draken Shadow question, but I might as well bring it here. Will there be a Draken Shadow vlog on the My Little Pony movie?
No.
No. Nope.
Where have we ever indicated we're fans?
I mean, have we made fun of the bronies? I don't think we have.
Oh, maybe.
We maybe referenced them a few times, but
yeah, I don't
I
know
don't
that we've ever.
I don't like making fun of little niches within geek culture, but no, a lot of people actually reached out to me and said, "Take your daughter to it." My daughter's still too young to go to movies. This would not help. And frankly, like it would have to be like a Little Einsteins movie for her to get even remotely interested. Because we've even shown her like Disney animated movies, and she still kind of has that feigning interest. She's not getting it just yet. So no, there will not be a vlog on the My Little Pony movie. I'm sorry if you were hoping for one. In fact, while I'm thinking about it, are we doing the Q&A this week or next week? I can't remember.
Next week.
Okay, so you guys can look forward to that. If you're Draken Shadow fans, we will be doing the Draken Shadow vlogs, or not Draken Shadow Q&A that weekend. So oh yeah, this one. Street Fighter V is getting an arcade mode. Really? Game's been out how long? Again, this is something that should have launched with the damn game. It's been out over a year. Why is it getting an arcade mode now? Capcom, you're silly. So that's literally my opinion on the matter. Let's see. Next one. Somebody wanted us to talk about Fast and the Furious for some reason. Probably because
Never
of
seen
Aldo.
any of them.
Aldo's a fan. I know that some people know Aldo as a fan of Fast and the Furious. And it was really that okay. I guess they're talking about doing a spin-off movie starring Jason Statham and Dwayne Johnson to do kind of a side story with their characters. Okay. I thought here's my only concern with that. I do want to see Dwayne Johnson as Black Adam. Do not deprive me of this. If the schedule doesn't work, then I'm going to say go and be Black Adam.
Yeah.
Sorry, what?
Well, I'm sure it's still a ways off before we see anything come out of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And we also know that apparently Fast and the Furious 9 is not releasing until 2020. So sorry, guys. No, this doesn't really hurt us. I think Aldo at one point said we all need to go to a Fast and the Furious movie, but we never worked that stuff out. And I don't know if I want to go. I love you, Aldo, but I don't know if I want to go. Car porn doesn't really work. Car porn doesn't really work for me. Let's see here. Anything else that we need to cover? There is also an additional story that didn't make the agenda, but I'm going to wait until the very beginning to cover it, which is just another little Easter egg that I want to bring to people. Let's see. Oh yeah. What?
There's Kate Winslet is going to be in the Avatar sequels. So yes. First time she's worked with Cameron since Titanic.
I couldn't who were the cast members for Avatar aside from Sigourney? Because I like people. Somebody actually asked me, was like, has Kate Winslet been in the Avatar movies? I wouldn't know. I've never seen them. I've never seen it.
No, she was not in the first one. Let's see. Main cast was Sam Worthington.
I'm waiting till Avatar 2 before I even see the first movie. I really just am.
The main cast was Sam Worthington, Zoe Saldana, Stephen Lane, Michelle Rodriguez, and yes, Sigourney Weaver.
Oh, Zoe Saldana? Very nice. Okay, I didn't know she was in it. Oh, that actually kind of makes me look forward to it a little bit. Oh yes. So Spawn reboot. Yep, it's happening. They're beginning filming in 2018. Have you ever even seen the Spawn movie? You had to have at least seen it once.
Nope, never seen it.
Really? Given the cable syndication it gets? I don't know why it gets the cable syndication it gets, but I remember a solid point for like a 3-4 month period where every night or like every other night, one of the two, at 11 o'clock at night, Spawn played on FX. And then there was actually a solid moment where Spawn played on TNT pretty consistently too. And I'm just like, this movie is absolute crap. How does it get the syndication that it does?
Probably super cheap.
Probably that's probably exactly it. Oh, what was the other one? Yeah, the crap. I lost the story, but people wanted to know our opinions on the live action Titans, and I lost the story because we have
like Teen Titans, or
yeah, they're originally called the Titans. But this one is going to be a live action series based on that, and we actually have a full cast now. Crap, where is it? I had the story and then I lost it. My freaking window crashed. But yeah, the full cast has been announced, and it's basically full of unknowns. At least unknowns to me. I don't even think. I'm trying to think. Was there even one that I knew?
God Almighty, who keeps giving Akiva Goldsman work? I looked it up on Wikipedia real quick. I looked it up on Wikipedia real quick. Developed by Akiva
Goldsman.
He wrote Batman and Robin, for God's sake.
Did he?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair though, it's sort of like I know a lot of that was Warner Brothers just telling them it's commercial and family friendly, but still, it's like he also wrote the latest Transformers movie. He's a fine dramatic writer, but when he writes action movies, he really just stoops to the lowest common denominator.
Wait, he wrote Last Night?
He's like one of like 6 writers, yeah. I think. Let me double check. Let's see. Yeah, he wrote he came up with the story for it, so he didn't write the action. He wrote the story.
So I have to deal with Emo Prime. Thanks.
Well, Michael Bay might be more, but he wrote the initial story. Then the screenplay was handed off to other people. He wrote The Dark Tower this year.
Oh, really? So you're talking the movie?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. He wrote it. He wrote an episode for Star Trek Discovery.
Of course he did. Everybody does.
Because it's Star Trek.
I mean, well, not just because it's Star Trek, but and it's a new series. But with TV and stuff like that, like they need to get that stuff done fast, so they might as well just like have occasionally directors like Cameron doesn't really do it, but I know Ridley Scott has done it a number of times where he stepped in and directed in an episode. And
yeah, usually on shows he produces, but
yeah. Crap. I need to do a Google search on this. Cover for me, Alex. Cover for me. You are Porkins.
Let's see. Akiva Goldsman, long-ass filmography, also includes Lost in Space, the 1998 live-action movie. Academy Award winner. Award for A Beautiful Mind. Kind of think it's an overrated movie. Think that should have gone to Black Hawk Down that year. Wrote Deep Blue. No, never mind. He was a producer for Deep Blue Sea.
Man. I am literally going to break my mic tonight. It's going to happen.
For a second, I thought you hit your head against your mic.
No, this anchor just won't stay in place. I really am tempted to just get rid of this dang anchor.
Yeah. Wrote the screenplay for I Am Legend. Produced Hancock.
Oh, of course he did.
Vulcan Council member in 2009 Star Trek.
Okay, so I got it. So if you're ready. We have the full. So this is a series from TNT. So it's not like this is not going to be based in the CW universe. A lot of people have been getting that wrong. It's going to be on TNT, I believe. Let me just double check here. I believe it's set for TNT. So yes, it will not be. Oh wait, let's see. It's unknown. Yeah, we don't know whether or not they'll be established, but it's going to be showing up on TNT. So we don't think it's based within the CW universe. So here's our castings. Anna Diop from 24 Legacy will be playing Starfire. So let me see if I can bring this up for you guys. Here we go. So actually, Romney now can comment on this too. So Anna Diop from 24 Legacy is cast as Starfire in the new Teen Titans series that's going to be hitting TNT. So I mean, I don't know how you can make that go wrong because you're going to have to cover in orange paint anyway.
Yeah.
I think
it worked.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, because it worked with Gamora for Guardians of the Galaxy, so.
Yeah, but the only thing that I'm kind of worried about is there's another comic feature that doesn't really work well with FCC guidelines, and that is that Starfire is more powerful with more skin that she exposes. So I don't know even if TNT is going to go that far to like put her in a super, super skimpy outfit.
Yeah,
I don't know if Anna is going to be okay with that.
I'm sure they'll find a way to work around it, because I know that was something that was added more in the new 52 specifically, at least to my knowledge. So
yeah,
that could be one of those minor details that they may just choose to willingly ignore for the sake of not getting slapped with the TVMA.
Okay, so Anna Diop is our first casting. Second casting is Tegan Croft. The Osiris Child will be starring as Raven. This one we actually did cover months ago, and I don't think we had too many thoughts on it. For me, it looks like they're going to try and cast Raven a little younger, and that might be the right thing to do, given that if you're going to have Raven, then at least the assumption is right now you're going to do a Trigon storyline. So I mean, here's the problem. I'm not saying that she's wrong for it, but we need to see her in the actual like dark hair, pale skin, all that.
Yeah, I think that's really the big thing here, is that this is still very early on, so there's a lot we don't know about what direction this series is going to take just yet.
Yeah, so I'm not against the casting. It looks fine. But time will tell. We need to see actual makeup on this one. Same thing with Starfire. We need to see her in makeup. Alan Richardson is from Blood Drive is going to be playing Hawk. So they're going to be bringing in Hawk and Dove for the Titans. Yeah, he looks like Hawk. He's a big buff dude. And I mean, with the Hawk character, you're going to have somebody a little bit more of a brawler, a little bit more headstrong than most of them. I actually think that will be a plot point in a couple of episodes. So Alan Richardson, yeah, he looks the part for Hawk. Now here is the corresponding Dove. So Minka Kelly from Friday Night Lights will be playing Dove, and yeah, maybe put a white hair wig on her, and she probably fits for it. I'm a little surprised that they're going down, because I know that there's been a male Dove, and then there's always been there's also been female Doves. So not sure.
Yeah, I'm not really sure either, because I remember, at least the version that I remember in Justice League Unlimited was a male Dove.
Yeah.
But
in Justice League Unlimited, it was a male Dove, but there have been comics where there, as you guys can see, there's a female Dove in that comic right there. Yeah, she looks fine for it. She doesn't look as buff, and that's kind of the Dove doesn't need to be buff, because Dove is more of a peaceful mentality. So I'm okay with the casting. And Lindsay Gort of the Carrie Diaries has now been cast as Amy Rohrbach, who is a police detective who will find herself being assigned as Dick Grayson's partner. So that's kind of the interesting take here, is apparently Dick Grayson is going to be a detective of sorts. And so we'll have to deal with that. But I'm guessing that they're also going to kind of do a plot line where she kind of discovers that he is, I believe it's going to be Nightwing for the Titans, but she's going to be a corresponding character in the series. Fine. Then we actually missed one, which was Brendan Thwaites of The Giver is going to be playing Nightwing, Dick Grayson. I
can see it.
I could see it. He's a little young that I would want, but yeah, I could see it. I'm just more interested in how they're going to make him like a detective in like a police force, and then have him running the Titans behind people's back. That seems weird.
Well, unless they're trying to do something similar to what we got in the cartoon series The Batman, where you had the detective on the Gotham police force who had that communicator that Batman gave her so that she could actually communicate with him. That may be more the angle they may be going for here.
Yeah. Now, the other interesting part here is if you guys read below, he will be starting as Robin in the series, but his plot arc is basically going to be stepping out of Batman's shadow, and so we might actually see him transition into Nightwing through the season. So that might actually be an interesting thing for people to see. But there you go. That's our casting so far for the Titan series. Now, again, as this story also points out, we don't know if this is connected to the CW universe. More than likely it isn't. In fact, I would bet money it isn't. I would bet money that it's going to be TNT doing their own thing.
Yeah, especially since I think TNT is owned by a different company from the company that owns the CW. So
yeah, Time Warner. So I have a feeling they'll probably get more direct support from Warner Brothers.
Well, not because Time Warner also owns the CW, because CW is owned by Warner Brothers. So.
Okay, so maybe that's where they're justifying it, but we haven't confirmed that these shows are connecting.
Well, yeah. Plus, it would just be a logistical, it would be a logistical nightmare alone trying to get all the cast and everything together.
It's already becoming a logistical nightmare for the CW shows because now you have, you had Arrow and Flash. Now you have Supergirl, which has moved over from ABC to CW to mix into that, and then Legends of Tomorrow, which is a hero group show. I mean, it's already a logistical nightmare for that. Now add in another 4 to 6 individuals, and here's the thing too. That's not all of the castings. Apparently, there's talk of a Beast Boy being in the series because of Beast Boy's popularity with the animated series. So yeah, we might actually also get a Beast Boy who hasn't been cast yet.
Yeah. And especially when you consider that this is a cable show, they're going to be putting a little bit more money into this than the CW shows, especially with a character like Beast Boy and Starfire and even Raven. So I think it would probably, I mean, they could if they wanted to, especially if both companies are owned by Warner Brothers, it would be possible. But at the same time, though, given the approach they may be taking with Teen Titans, they may just be better off keeping things separate. Because you don't want to risk alienating your audience by tying everything together across 2 networks.
Maybe keep them separate for a while, see how the Titans does. And if it does well, then great, we'll have them cross over. If not, because here's the other thing, too. Some of those shows are on the decline. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for them to do it. Like, the way I understand it, Flash is still doing okay, but, like, Arrow is on the decline. Supergirl is, I think, hovering. It's like in between, and then Legends of Tomorrow is also on the decline too. So it might not necessarily be a good idea to have these shows cross over unless Titans is so popular they think, or one of them surges in popularity that they think they can save the other.
Well, yeah, especially considering that they've been keeping the CW show separate from Gotham. That's probably just a better bet to keep things separate as well, since working across 2 networks, you run into the issue of, okay, well, who's going to air what first?
Exactly. So, all right. And it's already officially 8 o'clock. So if you guys are ready to go.
Sound speed.
Ready.
Here we go. Let's see. Got to adjust my mic now. Oh, is that better? Okay, there we go. All right. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. And now I got to bring everything back up again. Okay. Drink. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, the podcast where we talk the week's events in Geek for Friday night, October 6th, 2017. I'm your host, Adam Mickelson, a.k.a. Drac. I hope everybody's had an awesome week so far. We're almost done in this year. We've got a good couple of months left, and then it's on to the bests and the worsts and all that fun stuff, but hopefully less YouTube stories. That would be amazing right now. And of course, I'm being joined by my panel of fellow YouTubers, fellow geeks, fellow awesome guys in general. And if you aren't following their channels, you should be. And we're going to start things off with the Shadow Blazer himself. He has decided to grace us once again by stepping out of the shadows and stepping out of the kind and warm embrace of Black Rose. How you doing, Alex?
That sounds wrong on so many levels, but I am doing okay.
It does, but but now it's working. So, because apparently a lot of people like the "and you gals" that I did a while ago, and now I have to find other ways to make things sound kinky. So that's the way it goes. All right, so you're doing awesome, and have you been able to fix your whole? I haven't been able to get videos up lately, or
Close. I did finish working on a video today. I haven't uploaded it yet. I'm still fearing the content ID claims that will probably inevitably come, but I'm going to upload it tomorrow.
All right. And then we're also being joined by Stephen Romney of Studio Ghost of From the Shelf, Romney's Reviews, and Rhapsody in Cinema. Romney, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. This week was kind of busy, so much so I wasn't able to get as much work done on a video that I've been promising to get done for a while. But luckily, since I've mitigated some of the stuff that has set me back, that video should be coming out fairly shortly. But, well, other than that, it's been a pretty good week so far.
Is it Monster Clash?
It ties to it.
That's what I thought. Because one of the things I kind of noticed with your channel, too, is there occasionally is that ornery person who's like, where's Monster Clash? We want to do Monster Clash. It's like, guys, Romney puts effort into that thing. So
it takes time. I don't want to put out a shoddy product. I've already put out a number of shoddy episodes of Monster Clash that I need to go back and fix. And so, yeah, things take time, people.
Yes, patience is always a virtue, especially when it comes to creating stuff on YouTube or any other media platform these days. So let's just go ahead and bounce right into the stories. But first, before we get into the stories that are on the agenda, this one actually got brought to us by a listener kind of last minute, and I thought this would actually be a nice curtailing to the Nintendo story we did a few weeks ago in regards to the Easter egg found about Satoru Iwata. So let me go ahead and link this over to you guys in the chat. And there you go. Just to bring people up to speed. So everybody liked the little Easter egg that Nintendo had for NES Golf for Satoru Iwata's unfortunate passing. And a listener brought this to me because he felt like we talk way too much about Nintendo. Oh, gee, really? You never would have guessed that we talk too much about Nintendo. And so now we could actually show this little Easter egg that if you have, I don't actually, no, they're due in November. If you buy an Xbox One X, you'll get a little extra something that is going to be coming. And I'll link the image in the RSS feed for people too. But you'll be getting an extra little something that you won't be fully aware of. That's right. You've seen it correctly. On the board is a Master Chief riding a scorpion.
Wow.
So for those Halo fans that are just a little disappointed that they aren't going to be getting a Halo game right off the bat, well, every Xbox One X will have a little Master Chief in every single bundle. I actually will admit I like the idea that they did that. That's a nice little Easter egg that fans of not only the Halo series, but fans of Microsoft consoles in general, I think all will appreciate. So, first of all, thank you to the listener for bringing that to our attention. I actually do like talking about other console makers. I know that we have a Nintendo Talk segment. It's only because Nintendo comes up all the time. So I actually do like when somebody brings to me, oh yeah, Xbox does it too, or oh yeah, Valve does it too. And so when I can actually do these kinds of stories, I'm actually very happy. Now, this picture was actually able to be seen, I think, on a Spanish YouTube channel. So you guys can look it up whenever. But let's just go ahead and get into you guys' reactions. What do you think of the mini Master Chief riding a scorpion?
I think it's pretty clever.
All right. And Rob,
yeah, it's a nice touch. I mean, people who work with circuit boards do this sort of thing all the time. I mean, they'll put things like Tweety Bird, or they'll put Mickey Mouse, or various other in-jokes. And so here it's a case of, okay, I'm sure somebody who was designing and laying out the circuit boards wanted to have a little bit of extra fun. And given that the console was initially called Project Scorpio, they figured, let's draw that in there. Master Chief riding a scorpion.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of how I looked at it, is that they were going to do some kind of a scorpion-based thing, and I think it's actually a really nice thing to do a Master Chief riding a scorpion, considering, I mean, you can still get the Halo Master Chief Collection and all that stuff that came out earlier, but like as to an official Halo 6, well, it's not like it's coming out anytime soon. So you're kind of stuck waiting on it, but that's still cool. Not really a whole lot else that we can say on the matter, so I'll just go ahead and move on into our first story of the evening. But congrats, Xbox. That was actually a nice little touch that you could have. Now, unfortunately, the first story we have to talk about tonight is YouTube. Guys, I'm thoroughly convinced that at the end of this year, when we talk the bests and the worst, my worst has already been decided, and it is all the stinking YouTube stories we've had this year. Jiminy Christmas, it's Romney's war all over again, except Romney's not the one that's finding all these things. We're just all finding it because we all have to deal with it. So YouTube is tightening the rules once again. And so they will actually be tightening the rules now, not just on your videos, not just on the content that you're putting on your videos, not because whether or not you're advertiser friendly, but also on your end cards and whether or not you're linking to other sites. So if you do so first of all, I just like to point out that score 1 for me and Alex because we dodged this bullet. Yeah. Because we don't necessarily have end cards, even though we technically have talked about getting some. So yeah, if you have an end card for any video that you've done on YouTube that links to, say, a Patreon or to your Twitch, or to your Twitch stream, or to, you know, in the case of that guy with glasses, it probably links back to Channel Awesome, or other content creators that have their own main sites. They might actually put like separate links to their own main sites. Now, all of that is being observed by YouTube and potentially being shut down for it. So the threat, I guess, that they're making is if you're a partner, or first of all, they're putting an end requirement to it. So if you aren't even a YouTube partner, which, I mean, is there anybody on YouTube that isn't a partner by this point? Especially if you have a really big following. You're probably a partner, so you can gain some kind of revenue off of it. Now you have to be a partner, and with that, you also have to, in order to qualify for the YouTube partner program, you need to have at least, what was it? I think it was this when we started out, 10,000 total public views on your channel or on videos. So you have to have that, and then you can do these end cards, and now these end cards might actually affect your monetization. And they might also not be enabled on your videos. So they will not work, period, on them. So you could easily go through the effort of making the end card and then get a nice little notification from YouTube saying your link is not enabled. So therefore, any revenue that you would have gotten out of that, or any page views that you would have gotten out of that, you don't get anymore. So can we just stop, YouTube? Can we just stop? Here's the official full YouTube statement, just so that you guys can fully understand. In order to use externally linking end cards in videos, creators are being asked to join the YouTube Partner Program so that we can evaluate the validity of the channel as well as determine whether the channel is following our community guidelines and advertiser policies. This update is meant to curb abuse and does not affect current YouTube partners or existing end cards. Additionally, channels do not have to actually monetize any videos as part of this requirement. So, again, a lot of legal speak there. And I know that they're basically saying, like, everybody who is a partner that uses these things, they're not affected. So that's basically any brand new person that's trying to do that is affected unless they're a partner. Romney looks like he's got a major thought going, or he's trying to understand something. So what's going on?
Well, the first thing that I have to kind of clarify here is that I think a lot of people are misunderstanding what is actually happening, because the whole, oh, they're taking away the ability to link to Patreon. No, that's not what they're doing, not in the slightest. This actually is something that was part of the YouTube Partner Program even back in the day, back when they were using old annotations, that you couldn't link to any external sites unless you enabled monetization and were part of the YouTube Partners Program. This isn't really anything new. This is just basically them revamping that requirement for the new current system of YouTube, where since they got rid of annotations and now use cards, this is just basically redefining that is. This isn't really anything new. It's just a case of, hey, if you want to link to an external site, you have to be part of the partnership program. It's actually not that different from what YouTube was already doing.
No. In fact, I'm glad you pointed that out, because the next thing that I was going to get into was people are already... I know that there's a few stories out there of people's Patreon pages actually being not enabled, but have since been resolved. And the link has been enabled again. What I think YouTube is trying to do here is, if you're going to an unsavory site, like you're either the site for the game is a little unsavory or whatever, they're basically making it so that those don't work anymore. But I do know that for a fact, like, there were stories that came out of Patreon links no longer working. Those have since been resolved. The Patreon links work. The direct websites, to my knowledge, still work. It's only when you put up a link for like an unsavory site that it still will not enable them on YouTube. But here's the thing. This is all, like, again, this is something that we've all had to get used to this year, is that YouTube is kind of putting us all under a proverbial microscope and making sure that we are advertiser friendly. I mean, after all, they had the whole incident with Felix earlier this year and had a bunch of advertisers walk out. And the sad part is that through doing this new behavior that a lot of us don't like, that endorses the adpocalypse that we all like to affectionately call it, they have gotten sponsors back. So what is that telling YouTube? Keep doing what you're doing. It doesn't necessarily dissuade them from doing that. So it's just one of those things where I'm starting to agree with a lot of the major YouTube channels that are saying this, is like, YouTube is starting to become a place where if you thought you were going to be able to make it big, like the bigger YouTubers, that's not really all that possible anymore on YouTube.
No.
A lot of people are having to go to other places like Patreon pages, like Twitch accounts. I mean, even it's been brought to our attention, and I'm sure it's been brought to your channel, Rami, is that we have to actually look for those other sources of revenue to be able to make this work, if at all. You know, I mean, obviously we all kind of have to worry about 9-to-5 jobs and whatnot. But the other thing too that I also thought was a little more of a sign of the times than anything else, I don't know if you guys actually noticed, but within this month, 3 of the major YouTubers, especially gaming YouTubers, have actually all announced breaks for it. Because Felix has officially announced a break. Granted, he said that his was for, he is apparently very dissatisfied with his UK internet carrier, and he's trying to figure that out. Markiplier has also announced a major break that he's going to be doing. And then this week, a listener brought to my attention that Jacksepticeye has officially announced a break in favor of all of the live shows that he's now doing, especially with the Game Grumps. So it's a sign of the times, guys. YouTube
the key thing that people are kind of needing to understand is that internet video is becoming even more of a business now. It's no longer, we're kind of out of the Wild West, oh, everybody with a camera can become famous. It's now a case of, hey, it's actually getting a little bit more competitive now, especially since now people are trying to make money off of this sort of thing. And that's really the key distinction here, is that the industry is changing, and we're basically now, we're not quite at the area where we're running into the studio system yet, but we may, given the way YouTube is having things going currently.
Mm-hmm.
But that's pretty much, that's the industry.
Especially considering that YouTube is now looking to be a TV provider. So that's going to be a thing. I mean, I don't know about you, Romney. I was actually officially concerned when I saw the commercial start up for YouTube TV, which is like, oh, the independent platform, the platform that was kind of breaking the system, is now trying to become a part of the system, essentially.
Yeah.
They want to be their own TV provider, but they also want to provide their own original content. Oh, like, say, Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, all of them.
Well, yeah, keep in mind, Google basically wants to become the one-stop shop for everything. And, well, that's kind of what they're trying to do with YouTube, with Google movie rentals and so on and so forth. It's very much, hey, let's basically take all these other sites and what they're doing, like Hulu, Netflix, Amazon, and try to bring it all in one place because, well, It's like, hey, you already have a Google account, so why go to any of these other sites where you can basically stay with us? It's basically what Walmart does with their business model. Google's basically trying to make YouTube into the Walmart of internet video, where it caters to pretty much everybody.
Yeah. And I also know that this argument is being tossed out, and I actually kind of agree with it. Is like, I mean, in the golden days of YouTube, this was a public sphere. You know, it was a public way to be able to get your videos out, and yes, that was able to work for a while. Now we're actually starting to see occurrences where this is starting to privatize itself. Now, here's the thing. I'm actually in favor of privatized concept here. Nothing against YouTube, but YouTube is essentially public radio, public TV, public whatever, and therefore can be heavily influenced by the public. Granted, a private network is still influenced in their own ways, but at least at that point, there's a little bit more ground, a little bit more of a cover for a content creator kind of thing. It's one of those things where I kind of really wish that it was really easy to get on Screenwave. So that all we would need to worry about is setting up the Screenwave player and then going and doing the videos that we want to do. Because from what I understand from the Channel Awesome crew and from a couple of other people who use Screenwave, it's actually a really helpful service. But yeah, this is the way it is, people. And I mean, for as much as I know a lot of people are screaming, well, if it gets privatized, it's going to be horribly biased. I hate to be the guy that broke this to you, but have you seen the trending tab on YouTube lately? YouTube is biased. They're not showcasing their main money makers. Who are they showcasing? Jimmy Kimmel, Samantha Bee. Who else makes that trending tab that isn't a YouTuber?
John Oliver.
Does Phil DeFranco make it at all?
Yeah, he makes it.
He makes it officially.
Yeah.
So he's got to be like the only or one of few YouTubers that actually makes that. It's not even
to be fair though,
really makes that tab.
Well, yeah, but to be fair though, with how they've been, especially in the wake of the whole ad fiasco, they've probably been trying to be a lot more mindful of what content they put there. And with what Philip DeFranco provides as a YouTuber as a service, which is news, it kind of fits right in with things like the opening monologues from Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon or Stephen Colbert, or the longer pieces by John Oliver. Yeah. Philip DeFranco, it's something that, okay, we can conceivably mix this in with all these other videos because it's similar content.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the other thing too, is that eventually some of these people, I know Phil DeFranco they're evolving into networks all their own. So at that point, it's just going to be a whole other deal. But I hate to be the guy that bursts the bubble. Anywhere you go is going to be biased in some way, shape, or form. In as much as people love and adore YouTube, YouTube was biased in what they tried to show you and the content that they tried to provide to you. If you're a gaming channel, they've been especially hard on you this year. Because it's been a fight to try and get any gaming content up on YouTube's main channel, like the main page you see. So
yeah, especially when you consider that the concept of let's playing and streaming is still in a legal area in a legal gray area when it comes to copyright law, and that's something that everyone is still trying to figure out and keep the sites running. That's the biggest hurdle YouTube is currently dealing with, is that there hasn't been any court cases or laws passed that clearly define where the ownership of the copyright begins and ends in regards to video game content.
Mm-hmm. And you actually are starting to see a lot of these channels, a lot of these content creators. There is, I think we can all safely say there's no such thing as a dedicated Let's Player this year, because all of them are looking for other means of content that they can provide that would divide them from that. I mean, I'm using big example or big channel examples, but like Team 4-Star. Team 4-Star has Let's Play content. They do. They have a separate channel called TFS Gaming that does provide that, but it's not their main cash grab. It's not their main way of doing that. That would be podcasts. That would be DBZ Abridged. That would be working with Little Karibo for Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged. It's this abridged content that is its moneymaker.
Yeah. A better example, given that they actually explicitly state that their abridged content is not for profit, and that's what allows it to stay on YouTube, despite the numerous tangos they've had to deal with Toei. But a better example would be Rooster Teeth, because Rooster Teeth started
Teeth is
with
another
mostly
one, yeah.
video. Yeah, they started with mostly video game content and with stuff like Red vs. Blue, which Bungie gracefully said, hey, we like this show, keep doing what you're doing. And then they've since expanded to stuff like Ruby, like Camp, or Day 5, and other pieces of content that don't cater to just the gaming sphere. And even Bernie Burns has made it clear, to survive in this industry, you need to diversify.
Yeah, exactly. So at that point, there's not only in the Let's Playing community, I know that there are dedicated Let's Players that will stick to just like online content. They'll stick to just Call of Duty. They'll stick to just Destiny. And they're like the best provider of that. You can't really do that anymore. And now Let's Players are also having to look to diversify into other things that they can do to make their content unique. It's one of those things that makes me kind of happy that I've been indecisive on the matter, and I have a variety of various things that I do, even though my primary focus is podcasting. But nobody can actually say to me is I'm not a dedicated Let's Player. I do have reviews. I do have vlogs. I do have podcasts. I have a number of other things that can go into it. And Let's Playing would just be kind of a side thing. So it's just one of those things we'll all have to get used to. Alex, you've been kind of quiet this entire time and looking like your head's about to explode. So what did YouTube do this time to you?
To me, well, nothing. Did finally notice that some of our Dragon Shadow stuff got demonetized, but you've been telling me that for a while, so I knew that was happening. In kind of regards to the main story, I don't think this is something to really freak out too much over. I know that sounds kind of contradictory considering YouTube always finds new ways to bend us over and smack us in the...
It was concerning at
let's
first,
not go further on that.
It's since been fixed.
Well, it's just the problem is you can't make end cards unless you meet a certain threshold. Well, it's not a super hard threshold for channels that are going to need the end cards and rely on them. It's going to kind of suck if you're brand new. But at the end of the day, if you need to link to your Patreon or to your website or to whatever, you can do it in the video description. You can put a pinned up comment in your comment section. It's just one little thing. Frankly, I'm more frustrated by the lack of annotations because it unfortunately means I can't go back and make corrections on old videos or updates when stuff changes, but that's another matter. But either
you
way,
can, but you have to go and redo the video, or you have to re-edit the video to include the corrections, which is a pain in the butt.
Yeah, I mean, that's my point. That's why I miss the annotation system, is now I can't just make a little annotation. I'd have to take the video down and remake it or something. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. So really, if you can't link to your Patreon and an end card, I mean, yeah, the end cards are convenient because probably not everybody reads the description, but that's why you just got to say in your video, hey, you want to support me on Patreon, follow the link in the description.
Which I really do find it funny that this is bringing up Patreon because I actually haven't told you guys this, but the podcast is getting pelted by Podomatic to go and make. Have you made a Patreon page? Maybe you ought to consider making a Patreon page. Patreon pages are amazing. I literally have gotten emails like on a weekly basis of how great Patreon is, and I'm like, okay, I haven't really considered doing Patreon. Stop pestering me about it. So at that point, it may just have to be what a lot of people do. If you want to be that dedicated Let's Player, then then the Patreon is really how you're going to make that money, or go into Twitch strictly. And I know for a lot of people that's not necessarily fun. The other thing too that I have a feeling is going to affect this is because it has been all year, is there's basically a certain window that you can actually get what you're going to get off that particular part or that particular video. And that window is being affected by all this demonetization stuff. So if you're a dedicated Let's Player, that window is on Twitch. You're already having to go there anyway. And at that point, you have to fight with the rest of the Twitch community that at this point is fairly well established. And some of them are yes, YouTube talents that eventually bring their Twitch streams over into YouTube for people to be able to watch for syndication. It's just something that we'll all have to deal with. Unfortunately, I think that's pretty much all we can cover on this particular story. It's more facepalm with YouTube. It really is. It's more and more of, yes, things are getting worse on YouTube and there's not really a whole lot we can do about it. In fact, I'm thoroughly convinced. I mean, a lot of people are still having the argument that Felix was like the catalyst for all of this to happen. I'm starting to wonder if that's even the case, because it really does look like YouTube may have had some of this stuff already in place and was planning on implementing it either this year or over the course of 2 or 3 years. So,
yeah. Well, as they say, the times, they are a-changin'.
They are indeed. So let's go ahead and go into the next story, which was a little bit of an Easter egg to be announced this year. So we're about a month away from the release of Star Wars Battlefront 2. Not the old one, the new one. You know, the one that John Boyega keeps on pestering you about. And so at that point, in order to celebrate that, as well as a new deal with Good Old Games, or GOG, Disney has announced that the 2005 Star Wars Battlefront 2 multiplayer is live and up and running once again. So it's all. Here's the thing to keep in mind. Like, obviously, this is for GOG, which means it's probably just going to be for PCs. And they, in fact, confirm it. So if you were hoping to get Alex, if you were hoping to get your multiplayer on your PS2 going, that ain't happening. You have to have this on PC, and you have to either have Steam or GOG. And then you are able to access the Star Wars Battlefront 2 2005 edition multiplayer. This is
basically the good one.
Yeah, well, because I mean, a lot of us are still kind of worried about the one that's about to come out, but yeah, you're gonna have that available now. A lot of people are confused on the matter, like, when is it going to end? A lot of people have speculated that this will end literally the day before the new Battlefront 2 comes out. None of that has been confirmed, from what I can tell. This is, and in fact, it doesn't really look like the current Battlefront 2. This is why I'm saying it's getting confusing. The current Battlefront 2 really isn't affecting this. This is just a deal between Disney and GOG. So at that point, it may be affected by it. It may not. We don't really know. So I guess my issue on this particularly is quite simple. If you have access to the good Battlefront, why do you want to play the questionable Battlefront?
Because it's all new and shiny and pretty and has 60 million K graphics and runs at 3 jillion frames a second or something.
And features content from the newer movies.
Alex, have you been paid by EA? Have you been getting the DICE money? You literally sounded like the DICE conference right there. Romney, I think he's holding out on us. I think he's getting the DICE money.
Well, you may want to choose your words carefully, otherwise we might see the Mickey Mouse-shaped sniper laser.
This is true. They have not been able to find us since the Radio SLCC days. This might be the day. I don't know. But, yeah, so, I mean, that's obviously the first thing that came to my mind is, you know, if I have access to the good Battlefront 2, and I'm not sure about the current Battlefront 2, why do I even want to buy the current Battlefront 2? I might as well just play this on PC. But I mean, you guys obviously make the argument it's restricted content. You don't have access to the new trilogies. You don't have access to the heroes, or at least the heroes that maybe you want. It's not HD. It's not I like how Alex put it, 60 million K. It's not that. But Alex, your thoughts on the new Disney GOG deal that lets you play classic Battlefront 2 on PC multiplayer anyway?
Well, terrific. Never played Battlefront multiplayer because I've only ever had it on PS2, and obviously this would only be for PC. I did like a year ago try to get it on Steam, and every time I booted up the game, it just instantly crashed on me. So
yeah, PS2,
I don't think I'm gonna be.
PS2 online content wasn't really reliable.
Oh. It's not the online I was worried about. Like I said, I tried to buy the game on Steam, and every time I booted it up, it would crash on me. So it's unlikely I'm gonna.
On the new PC?
It's unlikely I'm gonna try.
On the new PC or on the old PC?
What? The old PC.
Yeah, that would have killed it. I have a feeling you'd be able to make it work on this current PC, but yeah, it's. I agree with you though. It's like you already have the PS2 version, so why put in the extra money or effort to go play something else? But at the same time, if you had the option between this or the current Battlefront 2, I have a feeling I know where you'd go. You just go with the classic one. Romney, your thoughts on this? Is this a good idea or a bad idea?
Oh, I mean, it's a nice idea, and for all we know, this could be Disney testing the waters and seeing, okay, maybe this, if we see that there's enough demand here, maybe we can get Pandemic back on board. I mean, again, that's wishful thinking, but I'm thinking maybe they're trying to test the waters with something here to see, okay, is there maybe something about this game that that DICE is not getting? And again, that's just me spitballing, but it's nice that they're thinking, hey, we acknowledge that this game is popular. We still make money when people buy it on Steam and GOG. So rather than try to sabotage it, let's just say, okay, we're enabling multiplayer. So if that means they get a few extra dollars for a game they didn't have to invest any money to create, then so much the better. And to answer the question between the two of the newer version and the older version, the answer is simple. The old version has Galactic Conquest. The new one doesn't. You know where I stand in this fight.
Well,
it's not behind a paywall, and there's no pay-to-win model.
No, I was gonna say there is one, but Alex explained it. There's a paywall, so at that point, I mean, yeah, your decision's fairly obvious. I love you, John Boyega, but no, I'm not doing the paywall just to have my favorite features, kind of thing. And this, even the campaign mode, unfortunately, like we just barely had new trailers launch for the current Battlefront 2. And I was interested in them when we first got it, but not really a whole lot changed in those trailers. So now I'm really worried that there's not going to be a whole lot to that campaign either. Because we already know it's going to be Imperial based only. I still have not seen a Rebel one. If there's a Rebel one, you guys can let us know in the comments. But because that's my issue with it, is like, I don't want to cover one faction. I want to cover them all, even if it means that you have to just retell story that's been told over and over and over again. I don't care. I'll replay the Battle of Endor. It's still awesome to this day. I'll replay the Battle of Geonosis. Why not? That may seem like a flimsy thing for you, but well, what are you doing with your Battlefront and your COD games? You're roughly doing the same damn thing, even if it's based in the far future or the distant past. I'm thoroughly convinced one of these days we're going to get Call of Duty Caveman Edition.
Yeah, the distant pants instead of the distant pants instead of the distant past.
I said past.
Does it sound like I said pants? Yeah, it sounded like you said distant pants.
Back in the distant pants. The corduroys were not happy with the shorts. For they were breezy and easy to move in.
Yeah, Call of Duty Laundry Edition.
You know what? We got Garden Warfare. Does that seem like it's way too far off? No, I'm thoroughly convinced that one of these times we're going to find out, instead of going to the far-flung future, Call of Duty is going to the past. And we're going to get Call of Duty Caveman Edition, where apparently your Caveman Club is now a M16. Because that makes sense, right?
Well, I mean, it worked so well for Battlefield 1.
Yeah, that's really my opinion on the matter. Shout out to our buddy Jefferson. I know that you love Battlefield 1, but it's just going back to the World War era all over again.
Yeah, except it's basically messing up details about World War 1 by giving them weapons that didn't exist until World War 2. Just saying.
And I guess the only thing that I could actually take away from this, I mean, it does actually entice me to go and try Battlefront 2 on PC, because I had the PS2 version like you, Alex. I didn't go to PC that often, but I would actually like to try the multiplayer again. I am a little curious though on this whole deal with GOG. Is this just for the Battlefront 2 multiplayer, or can we possibly be talking about other releases maybe happening? I know that Steam has access to a lot of the old school Star Wars games, but, well, Disney also owns LucasArts, and that could include a bunch of other properties going to GOG. And so, yes, it has piqued my curiosity just a little bit. Cough, cough, bring back Monkey Island. Cough, cough. So, for that, final thoughts before we move on into the next story, because there really isn't anything else aside from that. If you guys have Battlefront 2 on PC, make sure to enjoy that, because we can't tell you how long it's going to be available. I would literally assume that the day before the new Battlefront 2 launches, it's gone. So make sure to capitalize on this if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure to go and do what Angry Joe did. Go buy your chicken wings and all that and go play your Galactic Conquest. Because it might not be available right after that. Now, the next story that we need to get into is, I literally put this in our agenda, get your pillow, Romney. Because the last couple of times we brought this story up, it's hurt him. Poor Romney. But we have new news on the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. You know, the one that got announced years ago from Sony, saying that they wanted to do a live-action CG hybrid of Sonic the Hedgehog. And Romney's reaction? I'm trying to, like, actually recreate it. But yeah, so we've seen some developments here and there over the years. Now we've seen another one where the Sonic movie is now racing over to Paramount. Because that's always a good sign, right? Paramount has officially, or Paramount Pictures has nabbed the movie rights to Sonic the Hedgehog, the popular Sega video game. And it looks like that they're actually going to be putting up Neil H. Morowitz, whose original film... Well, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, Moritz, sorry. He actually signed an upcoming first look deal with Paramount, and he will be producing the project. And Tim Miller, who is I believe the producer. No, he was the director for Deadpool. He will be executive producing the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. So, probably a lot of outside references.
Well,
safe to say.
Well, with Sonic, it wouldn't be too far-fetched, to be honest.
No. But we're also going to be having Blur studio collaborator Jeff Fowler making his feature directorial debut on the film. Also executive producing is Toby Asher, while Dimitri Johnson and Dan Jevons will be serving as co-producers. So we have basically roughly a production staff. I didn't see any writers in there, but we have roughly a production staff, and it looks like, yeah, this is officially going to be happening. Deep breaths, everybody.
You know, back then, I reacted weirdly, mainly just because of how Sony was handling things. But honestly, looking at the people we have here, I'm not as worried. I mean, especially considering that Jeff Fowler is coming from an animation background as opposed to a live action background. So at least he kind of will have the mindset of how to actually block and stage animated characters, especially considering that he had a short back in 2005 that was actually nominated for an Oscar. It was titled Go for Broke. So here, I'm still kind of worried in the sense of, okay, well, who's going to write this and what is their approach going to be? Is it going to tie to any of the existing Sonic franchises, or is it going to be its own thing? And if so, is it going to be more in line up with something like Sad AM, or are they going to go more the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog route and go pure comedy? Which, given that Tim Miller's involved, it could go either way.
Yeah, I'll admit I was kind of there with you until I actually saw the internet speculating on this. And somebody actually threw out a theory. I know it's not right, but I hope it really doesn't come to fruition. Somebody actually speculated that since it's still a live-action CG hybrid, that OMG, we might actually see Sonic 06, the movie.
No.
And I would say, please, please, please don't let that happen.
Given that Sega has been eager to make fun of themselves for that in Sonic Boom and a lot of their other properties, I think they've learned their lesson. I mean, especially considering that Sonic 06, the whole KISS thing was a carryover from a very, very early idea when Sonic was first being conceived, and that game made them realize, yeah, the idea's kind of creepy. Let's not do that anymore.
Because again, like, a lot of people are apparently speculating, since it's going to be live action CG hybrid, obviously Sonic will be CG, but there will be live action actors that are interacting with Sonic, kind of like a CG version of Roger Rabbit. And so a lot of people are already speculating, oh no, is the love interest going to be human? And at that point already kind of speculating, who could it be? What female cast member could you put in that place? Could somebody actually propose Jennifer Lawrence? I'm like, no. Because
Mm.
first of all, that ain't happening, and second of all, just no.
I guess what it really comes down to is what audience are they hoping to aim for? Are they going to skew younger or are they going to skew older? And that's really going to determine what story is being told here. Again, given the people we have involved as producers, it's hard to say. I mean, obviously they're going to go for the PG-13 crowd, but it's very much a case of, okay, well, are they going to skew more towards a storyline that adult fans of Sonic the Hedgehog will enjoy, or are they going to skew younger to try to hook in the audience that watches the Sonic Boom cartoon series?
Well, and the other thing too is like when they talk about the live action CG hybrid, it actually does make me think to some of the movies that have been done since then, like the reboot of the Smurfs, where that it's been done in that kind of a format. In fact, right off the top of my head, who made that? Was that Sony?
Yeah, that was Sony.
That was Sony. So at that point,
Yeah.
it's not Paramount. But I mean, we could be looking at something like that, where it's not necessarily like done with seriousness in mind. It could totally be just a spoof.
I mean, honestly, a more likely scenario would probably be an adaptation of Sonic Live rather than Sonic 06, where it's just Sonic coming out of the world of the video games into the real world. And, well, if they go kind of the comedic route, I mean, I could see that, just Sonic anticing around New York City or something.
Yeah. Alex, your thoughts on the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, and now that it's moved over to Paramount?
I don't know if Paramount's going to do much better than Sony. I'm just hoping I was just more hoping they're going to drop the whole CGI live action hybrid. I mean, unless they do something like Sonic Unleashed, which would sense because there were humans in Sonic Unleashed, or Adventure, I guess, but Unleashed makes a bit more sense because there's more story there to be fleshed out compared to Adventure. It's not really Sonic 06 that conjures up to mind. It's just more Sonic X, where you get a really pointless, bland main character that nobody really cares about and nobody likes. Even though there's some okay original plots in Sonic X, I don't want that. I still think it should just be either purely animated or maybe just not done at all by Hollywood.
I'm in that camp. I either purely animate it or don't do it at all. Because in a lot of that case, I just don't see CG Sonic looking great in a live action atmosphere. I don't even think Mario would work that way, people, and he's got a game where he's going to be in New York. So I just don't see the point in doing that. Either CG the crap, but like just do a CG movie or don't do it at all. That's still where my viewpoint is on the matter.
Yeah, I guess I'm more the optimist here, where I can see some potential if they don't take themselves super seriously. If they embrace the fact of, yeah, this is kind of a weird thing, and just kind of, again, the best case scenario is if they approach this and do it as a comedy rather than trying to tell a serious story, then the idea could work. I mean, don't try to be the next Who Framed Roger Rabbit unless you're actually going to commit to it, which, again, I would kind of want to see that, but at the same time, just given Sonic's personality, it lends itself more to something that's more of a comedy that can have some action that just doesn't take itself super seriously.
So a listener just PM'd me, how long do we think it's going to be before Michael Bay gets cast as gets put on as the director or the writer for the Sonic movie? That's a scary thought, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
Okay, well, I don't think he'll write, and I really don't see him doing it. Producing...
No. But he's pretty much
maybe.
exclusive through Paramount right now, because Paramount is the Transformers films.
Yeah, but Paramount has a lot of other franchises under its belt, and there's a lot of other pretty reputable producers who work with Paramount.
I'm just saying, that's a scary prospect, and you should be ashamed of yourself for bringing that up.
I think it's about as likely as Steven Spielberg joining, to be honest. It's just not likely to happen. I just don't see Bay really taking an interest in it.
See, Steven, I would have a problem.
Bay had to be kind of strong-armed.
Steven would do the homework. Steven would I thoroughly believe, even in this day and age, Steven Spielberg would do the homework, and he would still try to make it work, because we have it on record. You know, he is very much a gamer with his family. So at that point, he would do his homework. Michael Bay, not so much. I'm very scared of that prospect.
Yeah, although he probably would handle the action scenes fairly well, but the problem is that it would basically be mostly action, very little story, which Oh,
Let's just hope the military doesn't get unleashed on Sonic because, well, as pro-military as Michael Bay is in his films, Sonic has to win against the military.
Although I
We've
will
had
admit,
elements of that with Gunn and the adventure series, and through Shadow.
yeah, I have to admit, if Michael Bay was involved, that is something I would want to see. Is kind of a like live action take on Gunn, just to see it. It may not necessarily be that good, but I'm just like, okay, that's something that I would be curious to see. Not so much curious because I think it would be awesome, but just curious to see just what would that look like.
And just for the record, YouTube gods, they're talking about a government organization, so it's actually an acronym. They're not actually saying the word gun. Oh crap! I just said the word.
It stands for Guardian Units of Nations.
Ah crap! I just said gun.
Disappeared after
we just lost
Shadow
our
the
monetization,
Hedgehog.
people.
Never saw it again.
we just officially been marked as not advertiser friendly. So
yeah,
sorry,
but yeah,
you know, in a weird way, I could see something like 06 work. Not 06 as it literally was presented to us in the game, but like with like many rewrites and many tweaks to it. Not like not a human Elise, but maybe like I don't know, some other kind of animal critter, and traveling through time results in them traveling through Gold and Solaris, and like I said, a very thinly idea would require some serious rewrites of the plot before you could ever think about committing it. But really,
just CG or not at all. Just don't do it.
Well, yeah, I mean that like even on that approach, it basically like with the rewrites, you basically would have an Indiana Jones film, but starring Sonic, which again, not a bad idea in and of itself. I mean, the games have done that sort of idea who knows how often, so it's a case of I mean, especially if it's like an adventure comedy, that could work. You basically just literally take Raiders of the Lost Ark and just imagine what that would be like if it starts Sonic the Hedgehog instead of Indiana Jones.
I'm not there with you guys. I really am not.
Although it would mean you would have to have the line is. Now, I just got to say this though: if it is like literally like Raiders of the Lost Ark, you would basically literally have Sonic saying Nazis. They're no good.
See, that was actually going to be the joke that I was about to say. If you do a live-action CG hybrid, that's just no good. My thoughts are simple. Either do a CG movie, because it's just going to work better in CG as far as I'm concerned, or just don't do it.
Well, of course.
I don't really have any idea on like what you could do for a story, because, well, I mean, there are plenty of good arcs to be able to go and do. Or if you want to do something new, I think that actually would be the better idea to try and tackle something new. But I'm still very much on the fence with this movie as I was when we first talked about it. I just don't think it should be done.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not particularly excited either, but it's probably going to happen one way or the other. So if it's going to happen, say do it right. We've had enough bad video game movies.
Yeah, although more likely we're probably going to run into a Ghost in the Shell scenario where it's going to be stuck in development hell for so long that by the time it finally does get made, none of the people who actually had the passion for the property are going to be involved.
So Sly Cooper. Oh, sorry. I know that.
Well, to be fair, Sly Cooper is getting a TV show, and it does have some of the same people involved who work on the movie, and that may be a better fate for Sly Cooper, but those things where, yeah, it's still very early in development. We don't know who's writing it. We don't know how they're approaching it. So it's still too early to tell with a bunch of things.
Okay, so I need another example. Metroid.
Yeah.
Metroid would work live action.
It would, but it's been put up on it's been put on the block a number of times, and it just hasn't worked out.
Yep, stuck in development hell.
Yeah, because who was it? James Wong. James Wong got it, and then there was one other guy that got it after him, and nobody ever did anything with it. So that's the sad reality. And I think that's pretty much all we can cover on that particular story. But yeah, it's coming, guys. Get used to it. And I have a feeling if Sonic eventually makes his way to the big screen, Mario ain't too far off.
It's a big difference. But here's the big difference, though. Sega is a lot more open to expanding to other media than Nintendo. After the disaster that was the Super Mario Brothers live action film, Nintendo basically pulled all the film rights away from Hollywood.
They were already talking about it during the whole Sony hack thing, because we found out that there was a proposed CG Mario movie.
Yeah, but the key thing to consider is that Nintendo is going to want to do what Konami already does, where they have a lot more control over how the films are made. Whereas Sega, even with their comics and their other properties, they've very much always been, hey, yeah, go ahead, do what you want with the idea. Where so long as it doesn't go stray too far, we're open to it. And that's the big difference between Sega and Nintendo. Sega, for example, doesn't mind the memes, doesn't mind some of the fan works that fans produce, whereas Nintendo, well, they tend to be a bit draconian.
Crap, I just barely realized. You brought up Konami, and we still have a Metal Gear movie in the works.
Yeah, that's a whole separate can of worms.
It really is. Okay, so moving on. That's pretty much going to do it for our tech portion, although we had a nice little hybrid with the Sonic movie. And let's go ahead and get into the entertainment portion. And unfortunately, we have a little bit of bad news for fans of this series, because Netflix has officially announced that the Punisher series debut, which was actually supposed to happen, I think, in the next month or so, is going to be delayed. And it's in light of the recent incident that happened in Las Vegas. So I don't want to get political or anything like that, but it is fueled because of the Las Vegas incident. So we have to mention that. And I'm just going to also say hearts and prayers obviously go out to those who were affected by the Las Vegas shooting. None of us want to see any crap like that happen. But yeah, it looks like Netflix is not only... So this basically started off with a New York Comic-Con pulling of the Punisher trailer that they were going to show off, and now they're actually talking about delaying the premiere entirely. A lot of people have actually reached out to me and asked, like, it's been delayed, does that mean we're probably going to get it canned? I don't think so. I just think Netflix is trying to be tasteful in this regard, and they're just making it work differently. So I believe in the story, do we actually have a date? I think the speculated date that we're talking about is either here we go, premiere in November, and I think it was actually set to start up in October. So they're just delaying it by a month. I really don't think that they're going to cut off the Punisher series just because of the whole Las Vegas incident. I think they're still going to do it, but they just wanted to be tasteful in regards to it. So I don't think that was necessarily a bad idea. I personally am still kind of not excited about the Punisher series. I've already said that I'm going to probably be doing a vlog on it, but I just, it's not a property that I'm usually excited about. But what do you guys think about the idea? Was this a good or a bad move from Netflix to delay the debut of the Punisher, not just from Comic-Con, but also its series debut entirely in light of the Las Vegas shooting? What about you, Romney? Where are you standing?
Honestly, I think it may be for the best, just considering the nature of Punisher as a character, and given that the series would be incredibly violent and involve a lot of gun violence. Content like that would, like, releasing it so close to a horrible massacre would be seen as in poor taste, especially considering the release strategy that Netflix and Marvel are going for, where they're not announcing an actual release date and are trying to do the surprise release model used in the music industry.
Yeah.
And so, especially given that they pulled the panel and the reveal of the trailer from New York Comic Con, it's very much one of those cases where, yeah, in light of recent events, if they went through with it, it would have been bad PR, because then people would have jumped on the whole, oh, you're glorifying gun violence and that's what led to this massacre, and it would get highly politicized. And given how much money they've sunk into making Punisher, they probably want to mitigate that sort of thing as much as possible. So from a business standpoint, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I really just think this was a PR move, and it was probably in the best taste possible. I know of a few friends who are already worried that because it got delayed, that it's going to get put into the Netflix equivalent of development hell. I don't think they are. I think if they had a New York Comic Con debut and it was supposed to debut in October, then it's done. So at that point, they want to get that out as quick as possible, and putting that out right after a massive shooting, just it doesn't play well. Especially with a character that, like you said, Romney, 80% of his stuff involves gun violence in some way, shape, or form. And I know that a lot of arguments have also been put up online of like, oh, well, this movie that had a lot of gun violence happen, that didn't get delayed because of a, insert shooting here. Well, okay, but that's not necessarily the case here. Netflix has decided, and therefore that's what's going to be happening. But again, I think it's done. I think you're going to get your premiere. I think it's going to happen. I just don't think it was probably the best taste for it to come out in light of the recent shootings. And that was a good idea on their part, not just to delay it from New York Comic Con, but also delay it, period. Alex, where are you standing on the issue?
It makes sense. It's pretty standard for something that close to home, a little too close, a little too, I don't know what the words are I'm looking for, but when something kind of is a little too similar for like life imitating art imitating life, essentially, most of the time this happens. I mean, it's pretty standard. Shows either get retooled or they get canceled or they get bumped or they get delayed. I remember quite a few years ago, Gangster Squad with Sean Penn got delayed right after the Aurora, Colorado shooting, and they had to also go back and they had to go back and recut the movie because it featured a shootout at a movie theater. So they just said that would be way too in poor taste. Yeah. And, I know everybody likes to make the comparison. It's like, well, X theme features all this. And, I saw a comment on IGN. It's like, this many people die in auto accidents every day. I get, yeah, they do. But at the end of the day, what is the 24-hour news cycle that we live in talking about endlessly right now? It's this. And, well, and anytime something like this happens, because, well, gun violence and gun control are very hot political topics in the United States of America.
Yeah.
Anytime something like this happens, of course, it gets the politicians on both sides foaming at the mouths to talk about gun control, lack of gun control, and so on and so forth. I'm not taking a stand. I'm not taking a side here. It's just
don't go political.
It's just the fact of life that anytime something like this happens, it brings out the politicians, and it brings out the lobbies, and it brings out everybody to talk about it. And, if Netflix went ahead and released this, then, quite quickly, Fox News or MSNBC would be running a story about how does media violence correlate to real life violent tragedies. So it's it really just, at the end of the day, I think Netflix wants to spare themselves a lot of headaches, and a lot of bad press, and also I do think they're also wanting to be kind of mindful that something really bad happened, and it's probably just best to let it simmer for a while. I don't know. I hope it doesn't, for those who are looking forward to it, I hope it doesn't get kind of pushed quietly into the night where you'll never see it again, because sometimes that does happen. Sometimes stuff gets put on the shelf because of terrible things that happened. I hope it doesn't happen for Punisher. I don't know if I'll watch it or not, but I know that, but obviously people are looking forward to it, but just be mindful that it's pretty par for the course for anything that happens like this.
Yeah, and the other thing to look into, we've been speaking a lot from the PR perspective. It also makes sense from a business perspective. If Netflix were to release it early, with this stuff fresh in our minds because of the 24-hour news cycle, nobody's going to watch it. In fact, they might wait months. And the problem is that Netflix needs these series, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, all of that, to do well in their initial launch. That's when they're watching. So at that point, it actually makes sense for them to delay things probably into late November. And at that point, they'll be able to at least get some of those people back. The other thing, too, is that from a business perspective, look, Alex can't really speak to this. He's had in and out coverage of the Punisher, but me and Romney kind of can. Punisher's really dark. And when something like this happens, you want to watch as much lighthearted stuff as you possibly can get your hands on. So at that point, it makes more sense for people to go to lighthearted content on Netflix than to go straight into The Punisher of all things. So I think this is actually a good idea, not just from a PR perspective, but also from a business perspective. And Netflix is aware of that. So it's probably, I would actually not be surprised if this thing got delayed to late November, or even bypassing the holiday season entirely because of this shooting, and going straight to January. I don't know if they'll do that because, again, I think we've got Jessica Jones season 2 due in December or January, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I honestly think this was actually a better idea than Punisher fans are kind of giving them credit for. It's not the right time to release the Punisher in light of recent events. So with that, final thoughts before we move on into the next story, because there's really not a whole lot we can get into aside from that. It's a good move in this perspective. You guys will get your Punisher. It's done. I even have a feeling that you're going to get I know that Defenders didn't do well on Netflix, but I have a feeling you're going to get a Defenders season 2, and it probably will include the Punisher now that they've cast him and everybody loves him. So next story that we have tonight is a little weirder, at least for me, because I've never actually watched the series. I've seen clips, but that's about it. Bob's Burgers is officially set to release a movie. Bob's Burgers is set up to release a movie July 17th, 2020. Now, somebody's going to have to bring me up to speed on this, because Bob's Burgers is past my point where I was actually willing to watch any of the comedic animated series that Fox was coming up with. I mean, back when I was doing it, Simpsons was still kind of a thing. Family Guy was picking up its stride, and King of the Hill was a thing. So I've never seen, aside from clips, really anything associated with Bob's Burgers, and I don't even know how popular it actually is. So, I mean, Romney, is this remotely popular enough to warrant a movie?
Well, I'd assume so, given how heavily the show has been merchandised and promoted by Fox over the past few years. It's kind of almost, I wouldn't say it's eclipsed The Simpsons in terms of popularity, but it's very much a clear presence in Fox's mind in terms of what animations they promote. And given the way that they've been marketing it, and given that there have been a lot of people still talking about it, it's gotten up there where I'm guessing the people at Fox realize, hey, this show is popular enough that, maybe making a feature film's not the worst investment.
Yeah,
especially considering that Simpsons did it.
I'm a little perplexed here, because Simpsons got a movie. It took forever to do it, and they probably lost their momentum a little bit, but Simpsons got one. Family Guy has gotten a bunch of TV movies, but it hasn't gotten an official movie yet. So why the bypass there? Because to my knowledge, Family Guy is still very popular.
I think a lot of it comes down to the format of the respective shows, because The Simpsons, and there's a clip from the crossover between Family Guy and Simpsons that pretty much underlines the kind of the disparity and why a Simpsons movie would work but not a Family Guy movie. And you have basically, it's the clip where Lisa is basically telling Meg that she matters and actually trying to, make her feel like basically trying to be a decent human being and build up her confidence. But then the scene is immediately undercut when Meg is saying, oh, I matter. And then Peter chimes in saying, no, Meg, you don't matter. And that right there kind of highlights the big difference between the two shows, that even with all the weirdness that you see in The Simpsons, there is still love is kind of the undercurrent with that family dynamic. Mm-hmm. That's not present in Family Guy. And so that's why a Family Guy feature-length, theatrically released movie wouldn't really work. It just wouldn't have enough material to hold. It wouldn't have enough going on to actually hold an audience's attention, whereas something like The Simpsons, and from what I've heard, Bob's Burgers, actually has that emotional investment, that emotional linchpin there to actually make you care about the characters.
Okay. I'm just curious. Have either of you watched Bob's Burgers at all?
I've seen some episodes on and off, because both my older brother and my older sister are huge fans of the show. And so I'm familiar with it. It's the best way to describe it. It is kind of like Simpsons, but it feels like it's kind of a copy of The Simpsons, but it's actually doing its own thing, where it's actually trying to do something unique and different, rather than, Family Guy straight up copying the exact same format, except making the characters even less likable. It's kind of like, the comparison I get is that it's very much one of those shows that if you like shows like Archer, you probably would like Bob's Burgers, because one, they have a lot of the same voice actors, so much so they even did an actual crossover between Archer and Bob's Burgers because the main character, both main characters have the same voice actor. And from what I've seen, although some of the humor isn't really my kind of cup of tea, one big distinction is that Bob's Burgers tends to have a lot more fun with its animation, where they try to kind of be all out there. They've done anthology episodes where different animation directors and animation styles have been used. And so it's very much kind of one of those weird but okay series that is very much in line. I guess the best way to look at it, it's basically more a network TV appropriate approach, similar to Rick and Morty, where it's not like completely out there in terms of like ridiculousness, but more in the case of, hey, let's have a little bit of fun with the medium itself.
See, with Rick and Morty's popularity, it makes a lot of sense that we would actually, I mean, there hasn't been anything announced, but yeah, Rick and Morty movie might actually happen considering the popularity there. But this is one of those things where I mean, if Bob's Burgers has the popularity, then it makes sense for them to do the movie. I agree with you on the Family Guy perspective. I just don't think that format really caters well to a movie, even though people demand it. I actually would dare say the reason we didn't get a Simpsons movie for the longest time is I don't really think that catered to a movie kind of format. So much so that, I mean, when an actual movie did come out, I mean, I haven't seen it, but a lot of people have just told me it's a longer episode is what it is. So you might as well have just gotten an episode out of it.
Yeah, at the same time, though, as someone who did see the Simpsons movie when it came out in theaters, again, it kind of goes to show that even with the zaniness, The Simpsons still had an emotional through line. It actually still could pull you along because of how well developed the characters are. And the fact that, hey, there's actual emotional weight. Yes, it's still a comedy, but the stakes are clear, the stakes are real for the characters, and you actually get invested. I mean, yeah, it could have been done as a longer episode, but I can see it very much is one of those, at least with where The Simpsons was at that point, it lended itself better to a feature film. And I'm even literally seeing in the comments of the article of people saying, oh, why isn't Family Guy getting a movie? And it's a straight up flame war in there right now, but it's very much one of those cases where, looking from Fox's perspective, thinking, okay, we've got these adult animated shows, and with Bob's Burgers just having a better dynamic that can make it more approachable to a family audience as opposed to strictly adult, it seems like the safer horse to back in this race.
Yeah, I mean, granted, yeah, I agree with you. The comments there's a major flame war going on in there. Especially with the Family Guy fans going up against the Bob's Burgers fans. It actually, like, a lot of this just makes me want to go and look into Bob's Burgers, and at least give a couple of episodes a shot and see if they're funnier than Family Guy. Because here's the thing, like, I know that there's a dedicated fan base to Family Guy. The Family Guy hasn't been funny to me for a while now, and it's simply because they were, Seth repeats the same jokes over and over and over again, and that's just not unique.
Mostly because he wants to quit the show, but Fox won't let him.
Yeah, something like that. I would actually dare say it's just because this is what he knows to do.
Well, that's why he got the Orville. It was basically the Orville was a compromise, because Seth MacFarlane made it clear he wanted to break away from Family Guy. That's why he tried going into feature films, because he wanted to be the next Mel Brooks. But after A Million Ways to Die in the West and Ted 2 underperformed, Fox basically went, oh, yeah, that movie thing didn't work out. But yeah, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff going on with Family Guy that has kind of led to its really sharp decline. But that's a whole separate topic for a whole separate show.
Yeah. So I guess the one question that I got to ask here is, obviously it sounds to me like Romney would be interested in a Bob's Burgers movie, probably go see it. I'm on the fence. I haven't seen anything for it. Alex, is this remotely interesting you at all to look into the property to see whether or not it...
Not particularly. I don't really like a lot of animated Fox shows. Granted, I haven't seen Bob's Burgers, but I don't know. Nothing about it's that appealing to me.
I mean, I liked Simpsons back in the day. I liked the first season of Family Guy. The problem that I have with Family Guy is that eventually its jokes got repetitive very quickly. King of the Hill, again, was another 50-50 kind of deal, because I actually had episodes in the newer seasons that I liked and episodes that I hated. That's why in a lot of cases I kind of dropped these kinds of shows altogether, and I would include South Park into that as well, just because it's trying to do the exact same thing. The only difference is that, well, where Matt Groening and Seth MacFarlane might have cared at least a little bit of who they offended. Trey Parker and Matt Stone don't care. They're just going to offend everybody, and if you don't like it, deal with it.
Well, yeah, but the big difference, though, between when Seth MacFarlane wants to go all offensive and Matt Stone and Trey Parker is that they still try to make sure that the jokes are a little bit smarter, and that if they are offensive, that the jokes are still actually funny. Because that's kind of the big distinction here, is that with newer episodes of Family Guy, when they try to be offensive, they don't actually put that much effort in their jokes.
Yeah, so, I mean, at that point, I lump them all together, and it's getting to a point where all of them, I'm saying all of them, pretty much repeat their jokes on a regular basis. Like, they literally try to dig out a joke that was done 5 or 6 seasons ago, and because now we're talking a series that's been around that long. We're going to dig out jokes that were funny 5 or 6 seasons ago and bring them back, just for the heck of it, because maybe there's a generation here that hasn't seen them. So at that point, I would at least look into Bob's Burgers. I'm actually looking right now who does Bob's Burgers, to see if it's anybody that I'm aware of. I'm not, because I mean, if it's one of those guys, I'm not willing to give it a shot just because I've seen their humor. Lauren Bouchard and Jim Dauterive. Okay, then I'll check it out. Final thoughts before we move on into this, because there's really not a whole lot we can talk about since the movie is like due in 3 years. It's due for 2020. Who knows? Our opinions might change by then. So the next story that we have is an unusual one in the fact that when this was brought to our attention, because a listener did this as well as Alex, it was actually brought up on a Twitter, and therefore when people would link it, they would link me the general Twitter feed. So thankfully, Alex was able to track down an actual article on this. Simply put, the article is basically saying why you should stop calling the DC Extended Universe that. So we're kind of guilty of this too, because the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they openly call it that. They openly call it the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And when we saw DC kind of making those moves, they did Man of Steel, then we knew of Batman v Superman, we knew a Wonder Woman movie was coming, we knew eventually a Justice League movie was coming. We all kind of, and I'm the guilty party here, we made the assumption that this was the DC Cinematic Universe or the DC Extended Universe. And since then, we've now been told that, well, nobody in Warner Brothers is actually officially calling it that. The revelation actually comes from Abraham Reisman, who recently wrote an extensive piece about DC's movie landscape and the changes being made to it for Vulture. So basically what he says later on in the article, and I'll just go ahead and quote it. I just looked back on the piece now, or sorry, that's not the right one. Oh, come on, where is it? A whole slew of other attractions on the DC Extended Universe was my own phrasing when I used it in the story, just seemed the kind of thing that they would call it, but he actually goes on later to confirm that Warner Brothers doesn't even call it the DC Extended Universe. They don't even consider it at all to be a cinematic universe. Finally put the definition here, the change in format and all that between Batman v Superman and Wonder Woman.
Yeah, to clarify, to make it clear, it isn't actually Reisman who's saying it. This was part of the interview because he interviewed a writer for Entertainment Weekly, Keith Steskowitz. I believe that's how it's pronounced. I apologize if it's one of those weird last names. Yeah, Keith Steskowitz, or Steskowitz, basically is the person who coined the term in an article back in 2015, and it was basically just meant to be a joke, a one-off joke, that just gained a bunch of traction because people just latched onto it because it sounds official.
Yeah, well, I mean, we even looked at this. We didn't even see that article, and we looked at the movie lineup, and we all immediately assumed, yeah, it was the DC Cinematic Universe, and that's what they were trying to make. But according to Reisman, evidently DC has never officially or internally used that term ever or in any capacity.
Yeah, specifically DC Extended Universe. Cinematic Universe, that hasn't really been coined, but the key term here is the DC Extended Universe.
Yeah, so, I mean, at that point, we do have movies that are coming out that are DC related. We have Justice League. I have a feeling that some of these movies will, in fact, connect over time, but now we're officially not calling this the DC Extended Universe anymore.
Yeah. The other thing that also caught my attention is that in addition to the announced films, apparently Warner Brothers is going to expand with another separate brand of DC movies that aren't connected to the cinematic universe, that are meant to basically just tell one-off stories. And so that caught my attention because, honestly, I think that's actually the best idea Warner Brothers has had in quite some time.
Well, the part that actually was really interesting to me is that after doing a little further homework, apparently before the retooling and all of that, Suicide Squad was supposed to be one of these one-offs. It was actually supposed to be a self-contained story and not even reference Batman or anything like that. It was just stay solely focused on Suicide Squad and what they were dealing with. And so at that point, I think Warner Brothers then stepped in and said, we need this counter. We need to retool this. We're going to have the same kind of cast members, but we need to now include these characters to be able to make it all fit within the universe or within the context of the story. So, I mean, we already have a couple of ideas that are possibly going to be coming out of this, which one of them is a recent announcement. We didn't cover it, but it was a Joker origin film. The reason we didn't announce it is because I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I like the fact that the Joker's origin has been mysterious for so many years. I don't think I ever want to know what the Joker's origin story is.
Well, I mean, most famously, the Joker has said in the comics that if I'm going to have an origin story, I'd rather have it be multiple choice, because the idea is that he may tell you what made him that way, but you never know if he's actually telling you the truth because, well, it's the Joker, and I don't think even he knows if he's telling the truth because, again, his mind is just that deranged.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we already have that as set as a one-off. We also, just to bring people up to speed, so we are going to be getting Justice League in November. Aquaman is supposedly going to be connected with these, but it's also going to be kind of its own solo story. Shazam, I believe, is one of these speculated one-offs because we don't really know a whole lot about that one just yet. Aside from the fact that, and we didn't cover this because it made me facepalm, but so way back, we covered that Dwayne Johnson had been cast as Black Adam. He was going to be the enemy. The part that we didn't cover was that I don't believe it's been confirmed or not. I think it's still in the rumor stage, but it is speculated that John Cena will be playing Shazam. So, yeah. Basically, this is going to be WrestleMania, the movie. Yeah, because John Cena and The Rock John Cena and Dwayne Johnson have had their interminglings in the past, and so a lot of people are already making the joke, okay, so this is going to be Rock versus Cena I think this is going to be number 3, number 4, something like that. Granted, he's only playing the Shazam character. He's not playing Billy Batson.
Yeah.
John Cena's only playing that.
Well, yeah, and honestly, given Captain Marvel, Shazam, or whatever DC wants to call him this week, given the nature of the character, that he's kind of like Superman in the sense that he's very much almost like a caricature, kind of very much goody good. I mean, literally an acronym that comprises spell like Wisdom of Solomon, Strength of Hercules, Speed of Apollo. I'm just thinking, okay, John Cena, he's very much a classic face. It's very much one of those, yeah, especially since you need someone physically imposing to match Black Adam, because that's the idea. 2 hulking, massive titans, forces of nature. You want someone that can match Dwayne Johnson's presence on screen, and so John Cena's not the worst choice.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, casting-wise, it's not a bad idea. He actually does kind of fit into it, and frankly, given the recent roles that John Cena has gotten, Billy Batson is, in essence, kind of a comedic character because it is a kid in a massive body, so at that point, you can have those jokes. And John Cena's been doing a lot of comedies, so we're going to have those moments, and I'm fine with that. And obviously, we're also getting him set up with a bunch of movies to get him a little bit more Hollywood credibility. I mean, for crying out loud, he just barely started filming the Bumblebee spinoff of the Transformers movies. So, it makes sense casting-wise. He works. His body type works for the Shazam character. Now, here's where we've actually gotten the first little bit of a deviation in the release lineup, because now Wonder Woman 2 has been moved up. So I believe that's going to be the next one. Yeah, it's going to be December 13th, 2019, and Shazam is probably going to begin filming in 2018. We're going to get some other movies sprinkled in between there. I believe we have Cyborg in mid-2018. So that's going to be happening. Cyborg actually has been, let's see, It's
April
actually
3rd,
been moved.
2020.
It's April 3rd, 2020. So it's been delayed. So Cyborg is still happening. Green Lantern Corps is going to be happening July 24th, 2020. Wow, 2020 is going to be like a big DC year, isn't it? And then there's also talk of the... Okay, you might need to clarify this a little bit because I've heard both of TV series as well as a movie, but Justice League Dark is, I believe this is going to be a movie that they're going to do for Justice League Dark.
Yeah, they've waffled on it considerably because first they thought, okay, it's going to be a movie, but then Guillermo del Toro stepped away. Then they thought a TV series, and the jumping off point was supposed to be the NBC series Constantine. But that show didn't do that well, mainly because they made the mistake of putting it right after Grimm, which basically already was Constantine. And so they then decided, okay, well, that didn't work, so we'll go back to doing movies. But problem is, they can't pin down a director. The film is still in rewrites. So that film is pretty much stuck in development hell, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, even though it's still slated in the list, Justice League Dark is not doing so well. But we'll see what happens later on. And this is the other one that's interesting, is that we've officially confirmed the Flash movie is back up and running and under the name Flashpoint. So, yay! That's exactly what we need. A Flash movie that deals with time travel.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing this maybe is DC kind of lining up thinking, okay, if things go south, we have this basic magic reset button movie here that we can basically, that if we've realized the universe is beyond saving, okay, Flashpoint, yeah, we'll have Flash break time and have to reset the universe so that way we can start from scratch. Or alternately, it's a case of, oh crap, a bunch of these actors don't want to come back. Flashpoint, history change, that's why the actors playing these characters look slightly different now. Ooh.
Exactly. The other thing, too, that is interesting, actually, about this film is that right now, the film is actually being based off of a script treatment that's been done by Phil Lord and Chris Miller. So we know what we know what they've been doing ever since they left the Han Solo movie. They've been working on this. We don't have a date for this one yet, though. It's still in development. It just barely got announced, actually. So Justice League 2 is also in development. They're looking for, or they were looking for June 14th, 2019 to release that. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Well, especially given the retooling they've had to do, since much to the surprise of a bunch of people at DC, Wonder Woman became the surprise hit, meaning that they've been having to retool the entire universe to have Wonder Woman be the linchpin instead of Batman and Superman.
Yeah. So we have Justice League 2. Then we also have... these are both in development. Man of Steel 2, Suicide Squad 2 are in development. We don't know too much about them. The Joker Harley film, this is another one that was, it was either going to be a Joker origin film or it was going to be a Joker Harley film that was going to be a one-off, and it was going to be its own thing, just exploring those two characters. Then we also have Gotham City Sirens. This is another one that's in development, and I don't think it's ever going to see the light of day, because I just see tons of problems from people. Basically, SJW is screaming out of the woodwork going, no! For it. But basically it would be, since Alex is like sitting here going, what? It's a movie based around Catwoman, Harley Quinn, and Poison Ivy.
Right, I've heard about it.
So, yeah, Gotham City Sirens. And this is another one that's additional, a Black Adam movie in development. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to work out, but that'll be interesting. And a Nightwing movie. Yeah, that's going to be a one-off right there. But yeah, I mean, obviously we have tons of stuff to look forward to as long as things get approved. But from here on in, it's probably best for us all to look at this and not connect the movies unless they're intending to be connected.
Yeah. Although I will say this, the IGN article does mention that there's a report of how there is a Joker origin movie in the works that is that the fact that it's going to be not Jared Leto, it's going to be a separate actor and be separate from the DC cinematic universe. And honestly, probably for the best, because again, Suicide Squad wasn't well received.
I'm surprised they're even going back to Jared Leto, honestly, because of the negative reception that they got. And I've even heard Jared Leto is not happy about that negative reception either. So
yeah, because with this origin film specifically, it's not going to be Jared Leto. It's actually explicitly states that Jared Leto is not involved in this upcoming.
Nope.
And so it's very much, we may get a different, maybe better Joker, or at least a Joker that isn't well,
I
we
can't
got.
I can say this though, if they do the Joker Harley film, I could see them bringing back Jared Leto and Margot Robbie, but it depends on if the Joker origin movie did well. But again, a lot of this is hinging on what are they actually wanting to do, a Joker origin film or a Joker Harley film.
Yeah, and especially considering that they're going to have some DC movies that are explicitly separate from the DC cinematic universe.
Yeah, they're one-offs.
Yeah, and that's the other key thing, because on the one hand, it'd be a case of aren't they diluting the brand a little bit, but on the other hand, without the baggage of the cinematic universe, it would give the creative staff a bit more freedom. But it's still too early to call with a bunch of this, because the only thing we've really got to look forward to on the horizon is Justice League.
Yeah, exactly. Because in a lot of cases, I think Justice League's overall performance will dictate whether or not we get a Justice League 2, and whether or not I have the feeling Aquaman is pretty much in the books. It will be connected at least in some way, shape, or form. But this could actually potentially affect whether or not Cyborg is connected. Because if it's not successful, maybe we won't get a Justice League 2. And therefore, we might just have a better idea of doing these solo films instead of a combined cinematic universe kind of thing. And I mean, they do have some good ideas in the works that actually would work as one-offs. Green Lantern Corps, I have a feeling that's going to be a one-off, and that'll be fine. Nightwing, there's even a Batgirl script being written right now. Those would all really, really work as solo jobs. But again, a lot of this is just hinging on the performance of these DC movies as they go along.
Mm-hmm.
And look, DC, I know that you want to make DC Warner Brothers. I know you want to make a lot of plans, but you've had one movie critically that's been considered successful, and 2 flops. So, well, one halfway flop, one considered a flop. So at that point, you don't have much success under your belt. I would wait and see what happens with Justice League and later Aquaman before you hedge your bets anymore.
Yeah, but that may be the same reason why they're even opening the possibility of having these one-offs that don't tie in, was because of how Patty Jenkins decided to not try. Basically, she decided to do her own thing with Wonder Woman. It's still tied in, but it was very much, hey, let's actually do this material right. Let's actually embrace what we're doing here. And it paid off in spades. And so maybe they're thinking, maybe we should let the directors have a little bit more free reign here, because clearly it worked for Wonder Woman.
Yeah, funniest thing about that, Star Wars people. Alex, you've been kind of quiet this entire time. It's probably just because we're talking DC and you're just like, I'll go see the movies when they come out.
Yeah,
but
I kind of tuned out when we got off the main topic here. I hate to say.
So at that point, like, what is your thoughts on that? Is it a good idea for them to stop the whole extended universe in favor of securing maybe these solo one-off films like Wonder Woman that could do well on their own?
I think that's the better idea, because they're already trying to, well, be different from Marvel, because they're racing to catch Marvel at the same time. So it's sort of like, well, all right. The ship has sailed. You can't go back. You can't go do the whole Marvel thing. So how do you make sure you separate yourself from Marvel? Well, you don't be Marvel. You do your own thing, and you have the standalone movies, and you have the occasional interconnected movie. So this will be to DC's advantage if they do it, and Warner Brothers' advantage.
And that's the thing, is like that. How would you be different from Marvel? You would have all of these solo films, and then maybe just have their sequels intersect, or maybe only have a few characters intersect. I mean, we heard a while back, but we didn't see it in the list, the Ben Affleck Batman movie. Given the interactions between him and Wonder Woman, it would actually make sense for him to show up in Wonder Woman 2, or for Wonder Woman to show up in his Batman movie. That makes a whole lot of sense. Maybe it makes sense for Batman to show up in the Aquaman movie. But then we can have things like Justice League Dark, Green Lantern Corps that are its own story. We don't have to worry about continuity. Because I can already think of one comic chain that has problems with continuity. Cough, cough. DC, cough, cough. So, I mean, overall, this might actually be for the betterment of it. And again, I really do think that given the lack of overall success that these films have had, it's just good to do this as kind of a backup. Because then at that point, these movies can do well on their own. And yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up, unless you have additional thoughts, Romney, because there's really not a lot we can say on this aside from we'll see Justice League coming in a few months.
Yep, there's not really much else to say. This is just DC finding it. They had a hit that they didn't expect, and now trying to actually step back and think, okay, well, how can we keep the momentum going and not repeat our past mistakes? Because again, the success of Wonder Woman, yeah, it's great that it's successful, but it did blindside DC because they were banking on Superman and Batman being the linchpins of the universe. But, well, those films weren't handled particularly well, so we now have Wonder Woman basically being the thing that is saving the DC cinematic universe as we know it.
Yeah, and here's the thing, too, is like, just because Patty Jenkins did it once doesn't mean that we immediately want to put our chips all with Patty Jenkins. I would just rather have Patty work, kind of like the Marvel model, where Patty works on the Wonder Woman movies, and that's all she does. And then at that point, you bring in a separate person for Justice League if it works out, kind of thing. I don't want like the second coming of Zack Snyder here. Okay, we don't need just one director doing these things.
Yeah, because that's the other problem, is that Warner Brothers, and by extension Tsujihara, is looking for his Kevin Feige. He wants someone to be the Kevin Feige, to basically guide the whole thing. But I think now they're realizing, okay, it's clear that we can't secure someone to be that Kevin Feige, and so they're, again, retooling.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's going to go ahead and do it, because that was the last story that we have for the night. So let's go ahead and wrap things up. First of all, thanks, guys, so much for joining us on this podcast. And of course, if you guys want to reach out to us and talk to us about these stories or give your thoughts or your feedback on them, this is how you get a hold of us, starting with Stephen Romney. How do they get a hold of you?
Well, you can always find me here on YouTube at youtube.com/StudioGhostUtah. You can also find my content on its second home at vid.me/StudioGhost. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Romney'sReviews, and I'm also on Twitter at RomneyReviews. And for this week's Romney's recommendation, it's a Blu-ray that I got ahead of its release, but it's from a series that I've been marginally enjoying. I'm still making my way through it, and that is the Blu-ray of Garo, which some people may have noticed that I talked about in the past. It's a tokusatsu series that was created by Keita Amemiya, which some of you may know as the director of films such as Zeiram and Mechanical Violator Hawkhider, and it's basically a tokusatsu horror series aimed strictly at adults. So it's not like Kamen Rider or Super Sentai where it's meant to sell toys and it's meant for kids. The kind of stuff you see here is very much like a horror series that just happens to have some action. While the effects haven't aged particularly well, it does feature some really good fight choreography, and it's interesting to see what was usually a very family-friendly format being used to tell more adult stories. And so that's this week's Romney's recommendation, is the Blu-ray release of the first 13 episodes of Garo, available from Kraken Publishing, where Blu-rays and DVDs are sold.
Alex, I can't help but feel that we just got a sneak peek at what Monster Clash is this month. Because he did say horror.
That's true. That's true.
He did. I think, guys, Monster Clash fans, you just got your hint on what this is going to be.
Well, sort of. It's not going to be part of... I am working on a review, but it's not going to be part of Monster Clash officially.
Oh, okay. All right. And then, Alex, how do people get a hold of you for the opinions you've shared tonight?
Well, of course, if you want to find my content, find me on YouTube, youtube.com, and Shadowblazer3000 is my channel name, where I do anime content and the occasional Let's Play, too. And if you want to follow me on social media and always get updates of when new videos come out, then follow me on Twitter at AlexJShort.
And just as an additional plug, people actually probably saw that I put this up on the Twitter as well as the Facebook page earlier today. But just as kind of a bonus, since both of these people are here, you can also check out the recent Rhapsody in Cinema that Stephen Romney put up, where he actually spoke with the Shadow Blazer about the film Zodiac. So you guys can check that out as well. And if you guys want to get a hold of my content or get a hold of me, you can do so either at my YouTube channel, which is Drac2326, or my Twitter handle, which is under the exact same name. And you'll be able to check out all the content that I have provided, including the fact that as of today, even though it's not up on the YouTube page yet, I'm happy to announce that the Why We Geek podcast is officially in RSS form. You guys can go to whywegeek.podomatic.com and get the most recent episode that has been recorded, aptly enough, with Stephen Romney and the Shadow Blazer concerning Sonic the Hedgehog. So you guys can check that out at whywegeek.podomatic.com as an additional plug. And then if you guys want to support the podcast directly, the first place that we recommend that you guys go, because we love you guys that you go out to the live chat every Friday night with us and enjoy the stories as we're recording live. But the best way to support us is go to geekyweek.podomatic.com. That is where our RSS feed is hosted, and that's where you can get the most recent episodes. I know that we're the most recent one we have is from 2 weeks ago, and it's simply because of PC issues that I've had here and there getting the files from last week's podcast. I have them. I'm editing them. I'm hoping to get them up in the next day or two. So you guys will be able to get last week's episode as well as this episode as quick as possible on those RSS feeds. But again, geekyweek.podomatic.com. If you want to submit a story, go to geekyweek@gmail.com, as well as be able to submit any feedback that you guys would like to share with us. And of course, follow us all on social, or follow the podcast on social media. You can either do so on Facebook or on Twitter at GeekyNRO. That's all you have to search for, and then you can like the page on Facebook or like the Twitter feed and get up-to-the-minute information when we're going live, the stories that we'll be covering, and additional content that's provided by each of these guys' YouTube channels, including crossovers and whatnot. But that's going to go ahead and do it for us this evening. So thank you guys so much for continuing to show your support to the podcast. Thank you guys for continuing to like, comment, and subscribe to all of our individual channels. And for me, for Alex, and for Romney, we'll see you guys next week for even more geek news, reviews, and opinions. Oh, and stay tuned. There might be some additional content coming out soon. Metal Gear.